A letter arrived at Augusta National on a Tuesday morning. It wasn't addressed to the chairman. It wasn't sent to the rules committee. It was sent to every single member of the Masters Tournament Committee. And what was inside that letter sent shockwaves through the entire world of golf. But to understand why that letter mattered so much, you have to go back. Back to February 15th, 2026, back to Pebble Beach. Jacob Bridgeman was 2 shots behind the leader. He had one chance, one moment to make his move. He went for an eagle on the famous 18th hole, right there on the edge of the ocean. But the shot went left, way left, into the rocky sand on the beach. What happened next would follow him for weeks. Bridgeman stood on that beach for more than 20 minutes. He paced, he analyzed, he looked at the ball, looked at the rocks, looked at his options. Meanwhile, Collin Morikawa, the tournament leader, stood in the fairway and waited, and waited, and waited. The crowd grew restless, the cameras kept rolling, and on social media the accusations started flying almost immediately. People called it gamesmanship. They said Bridgeman was deliberately slowing things down to get inside Morikawa's head. They said he was icing the leader on purpose, trying to break his concentration. When Morikawa eventually hit his shot, birdied the hole, and won the tournament, the narrative had already been written. Bridgeman was the villain, the rookie who played mind games. Bridgeman himself tried to explain afterward. He said the last thing he wanted was to ice Collin. He said he was glad it ended the way it did, but nobody was really listening to his explanation. The story had already taken on a life of its own, and then it happened again. The very next Sunday, Bridgeman was paired with Rory McIlroy at the Genesis Invitational. He was leading by 6 shots. His lead started to shrink, and fans watching at home swore they were seeing the same pattern all over again. The same slow, deliberate pace. The same long pauses between shots. The hashtag Bridgeman Rules started trending. A player who should have been celebrating the greatest week of his young career was instead standing in front of microphones defending his character. And here is the thing that made it even more painful. He won. Jacob Bridgeman, 26 years old, a rookie, won the Genesis Invitational. He had now won twice in 6 weeks. He had earned over $5 million. He had jumped to the top of the FedEx Cup standings. By every measure, he was having one of the best starts to a professional golf career in recent memory. But none of that mattered to the people online. The comment sections were brutal. The accusations kept coming. One media personality had to publicly apologize after making dismissive comments about Bridgeman on a live broadcast. Golf Digest published a long investigative piece with the headline, "The 20 Minutes That Changed Everything." Anonymous players spoke to the magazine. One veteran said he had never in 15 years on tour seen anyone take that long to assess a shot from a beach. Another said there was a code on tour, and that what Bridgeman did simply was not how things were done. Bridgeman stayed quiet. He did not fire back. He did not go on social media and defend himself. He did not give angry interviews. He just kept playing golf. But behind the scenes, people close to him said it was taking a real toll. He was hurt, he was frustrated, he was anxious about how he would be received when he showed up at future events. One friend put it simply, he is not a cheater. He is a kid who got nervous, took a little extra time, and suddenly became the villain. That is not fair. But that is the world we live in now. The PGA Tour reviewed the footage. Officials watched everything carefully. Their conclusion was that no rules had been broken, no penalty was issued, and crucially, no statement was made. That silence made everything worse. If there was truly nothing to see, people asked, why wouldn't they just say so? The absence of an official response became, in the minds of many, a kind of quiet confirmation that something had indeed gone wrong. And that is when the letter arrived. It came with no return address. It was postmarked from a small town in Georgia. Inside was a detailed breakdown of every alleged slow play incident involving Bridgeman at both Pebble Beach and the Genesis Invitational. There were timestamps, there were video links, there were comparisons to other players and their pace of play, and there was a demand. If the PGA Tour will not act, the letter said, then Augusta National must. The integrity of the game is at stake. For most organizations, a letter like that from an anonymous sender would go straight into the bin, but Augusta National is not most organizations. Within 48 hours, Chairman Fred Ridley had called an emergency meeting of the tournament committee. The debate inside that room was heated. Some members argued that the PGA Tour had already reviewed the situation and cleared Bridgeman, and that any further action from Augusta would be overstepping. Others argued the opposite. "We are not the PGA Tour," one member reportedly said. "We are Augusta National." We set our own standards. If we believe something is wrong, we have a duty to say so. The meeting lasted nearly 3 hours. When it ended, a decision had been made. Augusta National would break its silence, and what they said would either finally close the book on this controversy or blow it wide open all over again. On March 12, 2026, 5 weeks before the Masters, an email landed in the inboxes of every major golf journalist in the world at exactly 10 o'clock in the morning. It came from Augusta National's official channels. It bore the signature of Fred Ridley. The subject line read simply, "A statement on pace of play." The golf world stopped. Augusta National does not do this. They do not comment on controversies. They do not respond to media pressure. They do not engage with outside noise. Their entire philosophy has always been that the tournament speaks for itself. In decades of running the most prestigious event in the sport, they had almost never issued a statement like this one. Everyone read it at once. The Masters tournament has always been and will always be committed to the highest standards of integrity and sportsmanship, the statement began. We have reviewed the incidents involving Jacob Bridgman at recent PGA Tour events. Based on our review, we have determined that Mr. Bridgman's actions did not violate any rules of golf as currently written. He has been cleared by the PGA Tour Rules Committee, and we accept that finding. For a moment, it seemed like that would be the end of it. A simple acknowledgement, a quiet closing of the door. Bridgman cleared, case closed, move on. But then came the second paragraph. However, the Masters tournament has always held itself to a higher standard. The unwritten rules of golf, the code of conduct that separates this game from all others, are just as important as the written ones. We believe that players at Augusta National have a responsibility not just to follow the rules, but to uphold the spirit of the game. Augusta National then announced that the 2026 Masters would feature enhanced pace of play monitoring, with additional officials stationed throughout the course, ready to step in the moment any unnecessary delays occurred. Every player in the field had been reminded of the club's expectations around sportsmanship and conduct. And then came the final paragraph, the one that everyone would be quoting for days. Jacob Bridgman is a talented young player with a bright future. He is welcome at Augusta National. But like all who compete here, he will be expected to conduct himself in a manner befitting this championship. We have no doubt that he will. The statement ended there. No press conference, no follow-up comments, just that quiet, precise, unmistakable message. Augusta National had been watching, they had paid attention, and they had said their piece. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Some people praised Augusta for stepping in where the PGA Tour had stayed silent. Others criticized them for weighing in on a matter that had technically already been settled. But everyone agreed on one thing. The Masters had just sent a message to every single player in the field. Play fast, play fair, and know that the most powerful institution in golf has its eyes on you. For Bridgman, the statement was two things at once. It was vindication, because Augusta National had explicitly stated that he broke no rules. And it was a warning, because the reference to unwritten rules made it perfectly clear that he would be held to a higher standard when he walked through those gates in April. He is welcome here. That is what they said. But the message underneath those words was clear. Do not test us. Every practice round at Augusta will be watched, every shot will be timed, every pause will be noted. For a 26-year-old rookie who spent weeks being called a cheater by strangers on the internet, who stayed silent when lesser players would have snapped, who kept winning while carrying the weight of a controversy he never asked for, those 4 words carry enormous meaning. He is welcome here. For the PGA Tour, the statement landed like a quiet rebuke. Augusta had done something the tour had been unwilling to do. They had addressed the elephant in the room. They had spoken directly about slow play, about the spirit of the game, about what standards actually look like in practice. The tour scrambled to respond, holding calls with players, sending out memos, reminding everyone of existing rules. But the moment had passed. Augusta had led, and the tour had followed. The controversy is not entirely over. It never fully is with something like this, but the chapter has turned. Bridgman showed up, kept his head down, kept competing, and let his golf do the talking. Augusta National looked at everything and said he belongs here. When he stands on the first tee at Augusta National this April, he will feel the weight of every eye in the building. He will know that officials are watching, that the clock is running, that the entire golf world is waiting to see what version of Jacob Bridgman shows up inside those ropes. But he will also know something else. Something that no amount of social media outrage or anonymous letters or investigative articles could take away from him. He earned his place at that table, and Augusta National said so themselves. The Masters awaits, and Jacob Bridgman is ready.